A major deal allowing Russia to export gas into Europe via Ukraine will end today after Kyiv refused to renew the agreement with Moscow. For 5 years, Russia has exported gas to Europe through Ukraine. With the Russian war in Ukraine still raging, Kyiv says it has no plans to renegotiate the deal. Olga Khakova from the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Centre joins me now for more. Welcome to the program. What impact do you expect this to have?
Thank you so much for having me on. The end of the deal was anticipated, and the risk around it has been baked in the energy markets and the gas markets for a while now. The impact, of course, is the most severe for countries that are landlocked. But again, these countries have had since 2014, for some countries, it was since 2022, to prepare for and create alternative routes, and they have successfully done so. Moldova is in a tougher spot. Russia has stopped deliveries to Moldova, which uses about 2 BCM, billion cubic meters of natural gas. But this also provides an opportunity for allies like Romania and other EU member states to support Moldova and make sure that any kind of crisis is averted. So the situation has been anticipated, and worst case scenarios have been mitigated. This is not 2022 when Europe was taken by surprise by Russia stopping gas deliveries. This situation is, again, something that Europe has prepared for a while now.
And when you say baked in, that's really because these deals for gas exports are coordinated and organised, signed off years in advance, are they? It's not a spot market sort of situation.
That's correct. Now, we can still have some shorter deals or some spot market deliveries. This doesn't fully close the door on future deliveries through Ukraine. We're just unlikely to see a massive deal, something that we saw in, for example, 2004, where through Ukraine, Russia was sending 137 BCM of natural gas. We're never going to see those kinds of volumes again. But something shorter term, much smaller volumes is possible. We saw 15 BCM last year, which is about 5% of the natural gas demand in Europe. So 5% is not as significant as previous volumes. But if certain things are managed, for example, Ukraine and Russia would still need to have some kind of an agreement between the transmission system operators, even if they have third parties help them negotiate a broader deal and they don't talk to each other directly on some of the bigger transit deal discussions. Some of the conversations will still need to happen directly between Russia and Ukraine. And that makes it even more complicated, particularly considering that Russia benefits from this deal much more than Ukraine does. Russia generates about $6.5 billion through being able to utilize this transit and sell this gas to European consumer. Ukraine only receives $800 million. And most of that money goes towards just maintaining the network and just towards operational costs. So this is a great example of how Ukraine has showcased itself as a reliable energy partner, delivering gas, delivering on its commitments on this contract, even at the time where they had every excuse, every reason not to, even under this contract.
And it sounds as though the European markets are well prepared for this. What about Russia, though? What are they going to do with their gas? Have they planned in the same way for other ways to get it out of Russia?
This has a much bigger implication for Russia. Another reason is because Russia uses the revenues it generates from this gas that it sells to Europe through the transit through Ukraine. It uses these revenues to continue its barbaric aggression in Ukraine. So this will hurt Russia's broader budget, but most importantly, its military budget. And Russia also uses some of these revenues to help Russian citizens to minimize prices, to subsidize gas prices for its citizens. So this will actually have direct implications for your average Russian. And Russian piped gas really has no other place to go. This was the last major artery. There is about 15 BCM of gas going through Turkey, through Turkish Stream, but that's minor. That's nothing compared to the previous 200 BCM that we've seen Russia sending to Europe in the last 20 or so years a year. So this has significant implications for Russian budget. They will now have to turn to LNG to generate some of the gas income there, and they're trying extremely hard to increase LNG production. We have seen LNG uptick deliveries to Europe from Russia. However, the sanctions imposed by US, by UK, have actually stalled the expansion of this LNG development and have made it much harder for Russia to be able to pursue its LNG goals.
And look, just finally, given this is going to have a big impact on Russia, would you expect that to be enough to slow down that war effort against Ukraine? And also, would you expect if prices go up for gas in Russia, that would have an effect on Vladimir Putin?
The inflation and prices for just your average basic products like eggs and milk and bread really do drive public support, or the lack of. That is something that will get people on the streets if the inflation reaches that tipping point. We have already seen ruble, really in a place historically where for Russians it is an extremely uncomfortable place. It used to be that as long as ruble stayed, somewhere around 100, it was the population was okay. Going up to 110, 120, and higher than that, that means ruble is in trouble. That means that we'll see some implications, and I think especially in the next 6 months, there will be more implications for an average Russian at home, and we will see how much that will drive public unrest or public dissatisfaction. Again, people are unlikely to go and protest against the war, but they are very comfortable protesting high food prices.